fragment of Tibet. Nestled deep in the southern Indian state of Karnataka, near the historic city of Mysore, Bailakuppe is one of India's largest Tibetan settlements.
So, we spent all the day driving there and back, there and back. I stopped everyone whom I could meet on the street, next to the Golden Temple, on the sides where the stupas were built. Nobody knew. And it was already evening. The driver was panicking, lamenting or shouting. But on the other side of the village, of the road, there was sort of the office, and I thought, a last chance.
This is the final resting place of a remarkable woman who, like many of the settlers, was born in a foreign land but would live to become a part of India's rich spiritual fabric. Wanda Dynowska. In India, she was mostly known as Umadevi, a name given to her by Mahatma Gandhi.
She said, no, I don't know nothing, but this gentleman can know something. He is the officer. He is VIP here. And it was the guy who was doing a lot of administrative work. Very busy, very temperamental, shouting at somebody.
Her ashes lie in a chorten of the sort used by Tibetan Buddhists to commemorate the lives of great teachers and spiritual masters. It bears 3 names.
So I went to him, Wanda Dynowska, Umadevi, Tenzin Chodon, my mantra. He said, yeah, I know about her. How? Impossible. And he took me to the place. And the place was the most unexpected and magic place I could imagine. Not next to the temple, not in the common graveyard of others. It was on the hill, in the middle of the beautifully plugged earth, and it looks like the Eastern Territories where she was born.
Sometimes we call her Motherji.
We fondly call her Mother Amla.
Often I used to go and meet her, and we used to call her Mola, that means mother.
She grew up in countryside with a beautiful forest and lake around, deeply rooted in nature, in local culture, and many visitors and prominent representative people for Polish culture used to come and visit with parents, and the house was a meeting place. So she very soon grew up and learned quite a lot from a deep spiritual and religious Polish culture.
As far as Wanda Dynowska's early life is concerned, not much is well known. There are stories, and one of them concerns her fiancé, Szczepan.
Annie Besant was the one who was the president of the Theosophical Society at that time. She was also a very large figure in Indian history, being one of the founders of the movement that led to India's separation from Britain. The Theosophical Society came into being in 1875. Many people think of it as an organization that had its roots in India, but actually it was founded in New York City. It has 3 principal objects, which are to form a nucleus of the Universal Brotherhood of Humanity, which in 1875 was a revolutionary idea, without regard to caste, creed, color, gender, any of the dividing sorts of influences. It also has a second object, which is the comparative study of religion, science, and philosophy. And then a third, which relates to unfolding the uninvestigated laws of nature and the powers latent in the human being.
In 1935, Marshal Józef Piłsudski, first leader of the Polish Republic, breathed his last. Dynowska, who regarded him as the embodiment of the Polish nation, was deeply affected by his passing. Perhaps it was his death that prompted her to travel to India to explore her spiritual destiny.
Dynowska in 1935 visited for the first time in India, and in fact her first visit was the last one, because in fact once she arrived in 1935 she almost never left the country. So we have that nice expression in Buddhist tradition that only when you are Buddha you can recognize the Buddha of the past. So that was something illuminated in her that permitted her to see and appreciate and meet illuminated person of that period.
In order to understand Wanda Dynowska's, the value of Wanda Dynowska's work, I think it's very necessary to know the motto that was always behind her work. And it says, "To show the soul of Poland to India, even to a small group of lively and open people. To show the soul of India to Poles, even few, broad-minded and deprived of racial and religious prejudices, who love people irrespective of which part of the world they live in. This is one of the main purposes of my long-term stay in India."
She was introduced to the political life of India by Maurycy Frydman, the Polish Jew who came sometime before her, and he was very well connected with Indian establishment.
As a symbol of his admiration for Dynowska, Gandhi gave her the name Umadevi, the bearer of light, a name she would use for the rest of her life. On the 1st of September 1939, Poland was invaded by Germany. On the 3rd, France and Britain declared war on Nazi Germany. It was the beginning of the Second World War.
The first thing when she learned about this was to go back to Poland to help her motherland. She was stopped in Romania. She never reached her homeland. She went back to India, where she was working for the cause of Indian nation, closely collaborating with Mahatma Ji.
Gandhi's letters to Umadevi also betray a sense of tension, as he tried to convince her of the value of faith and non-violent resistance, even in the face of great violence and oppression. For Dynowska, who had grown up admiring the warlike Piłsudski, who propagated the idea of armed rebellion, this would constitute a remarkable change of heart. As humanity recovered from the most divisive and destructive conflict in its history, Umadevi was convinced that more needed to be done to bring the world closer together, particularly the two nations she called home.
Her work must have influenced the journal reader in Poland, especially in the 60s and 70s, when there was not so much to be read in Polish that could reach the reader at large.
In the 2.5 decades she had been in India, Dynowska had achieved more than most people do in a lifetime, in the process transforming from Wanda to Umadevi.
Whenever she saw something wrong, she always expressed, "Don't do that, that kind of thing. One old Polish lady, quite aggressive.
But this vitality was on the wane. Age and constant neglect of her body had taken their toll.
So Umadevi's last days had come in 1971. Somewhere in February, she was admitted in Mission Hospital in Mysore.
And 2 days before her death, she's wanting to receive the last rites of the Roman Catholic Church, and she wants to come back to church.
People start fighting for that personality. Well, he was us, or he should be ours, and so on, so on. She was nobody's. She was for herself and for those whom she helped.